Well, it's been difficult the last couple of weeks with my mum passing away on the 28th. It's been very hard. It's a very emotional time for me, and so I've not really been doing any videos. Now, this video is really just to fill a gap, really, because I know people are curious, know what's going on, but I made these little extenders. Obviously, they have to be the right thickness. This one's too big, actually. As you can see, it's a lot taller than the one that's in there. But that is to get the ball bearing at the same height. Well, this is typical. Hang on a minute. Somebody's gone. Oh, this has gone live. Right in the middle of me making this video. Right, so basically I made these extenders so that these bearings are all at the same height, because actuation from the outside rotor magnets and the centre rotor magnet, and my daughter commented, she said, "Oh, it's cockeyed, it looks wonky." I said, "Yeah, but that's because of an arc. The actual rotors are in an arc, not in a straight line. Because as the rotors pass, they're actually in a circumference. So the magnet has to be in a circumference as it goes around. That's why it's in that arc shape, like that. And obviously the cores will go through the middle, and they will also go for the other outside cores, go for the outside for the bobbins. Anyway, I've got both of these ready, and I actually ordered some more laminations. So there's no lot of laminations coming soon, probably in about a week's time. But the funeral's next on the 19th, so I mean I really have to get that. I have to get the grieving out of the way, you know. I have to get all this stuff with my mum sorted out, and I'm in a bit of a lull at the moment, you know. But that's my mum, and that's a photograph of my mum, taken recently. And it's difficult looking at that photograph, actually, for me right now. Anyway, I readjusted my lamination because it's important that they're equal on both sides for the outside concentric actuation. But until I get these new, I've taken all the magnets out for now because I'm going to put the magnets in. I've got to be balanced, and I've got to basically put my laminations through and then test them to make sure I've got the magnets set right, because some of these magnets from China they're different thicknesses and strengths as well, probably. So it's going to be fiddly. But I've actually got my device running with the old configuration right now, and you can't even hear it. It's so quiet. But I'm not pushing it too hard. It's only because of the extra weight on these rotors. It's pretty heavy, actually. The rotors are quite heavy, and I've got a fairly big gap, actually. And there's only internal actuation. There's just the internal actuation on there, and the motor's being driven at 170 milliamps at 9.25 volts at about 525 RPM. And I'll put the meter on. Let's just switch the meter on. At the moment, when it's stabilised, it's at 1.49 volts, which is basically 1.5 volts. And put the other meter on just a minute. Let that settle. Right, the other meter is at 1.385. That's on the other coil. And when I load the coil down onto current, remember we're at 522 RPM right now. So if I put this on current, actually no, the frequency is at about 50. It's about 52 hertz. It's around 50 hertz roughly. Current on a drawing 25 milliamps, 24.8 milliamps. We see a slight drop in the RPM, which is nothing really, considering. And current into the motor, the motor voltage and current is the same, 9.2 5 volts, 170 milliamps, and we're dropped now to 511 RPM, which is really not a lot, 510. So we're still pulling one coil down to 24.8 milliamps, and the other coil has dropped to 1.2 volts. Just to give you a rough idea of the loading factor, when you load one coil down, it affects slightly. And RPM right now is 507. It's not perfect. This configuration is not very well balanced though, because the cores are not exactly identical. And I'll stick this back on voltage. Let's see, go back onto voltage. Right, we're back on voltage. And the voltage goes back up on the first coil, which is 1.347, 1.348. The second coil, 1.44 volts. RPM is currently at 510 RPM. It's climbing slightly, so there's a slight dip. Obviously, I expect that because there's a certain amount of magnetic flux sharing, because the biasing of the proxy magnets, when the magnetic field is being pushed by the rotors, the actual magnetic field on the proxy magnets is also being deflected. So you will have a certain amount of deflection feedback, which is what I expect, as we take a loading factor on the coils. So there will be a slight amount of deflection when we're loading the coils down, but we're not seeing as much as what we would have done if it was directly coupled between rotor and coil, which is good. Anyway, the RPM is now back up to 518. The motor power is at 9.2. It's gone back up slightly to 9.28. Still at 170 milliamps. So that's the motor that's doing the driving force for the rotors. So it's driven by a spindle motor of a CD player. Anyway, it's a lot quieter than it was. I've got the mechanical part more balanced, but the actual magnetic coupling is not properly. It's not ideally balanced right now. I noticed when I stopped this and I turned them manually, one side rotor is attracted more on one side, and when I rotate it, the other side is attracted more, and they should be exactly equal, which is not. So that's because the magnetic fields need to be adjusted. The magnetic cores are not perfectly balanced to compensate, but the new design, which I'm working on, the new design hopefully will sort that problem out, because instead of just actuating the center cores, which say we're actuating the center cores with south, the outside cores are going to be actuated with north. So we'll have a much more easier system for balancing it out, because I could adjust the height of the center core either higher or lower, and create a balanced situation. So I mean, the cores will be running through these little slots coming up at the sides, and what I'll basically be doing is elevating this middle core so that it's either slightly higher or slightly lower than the outside cores. It possibly will need to be slightly higher, actually, because we're actuating two outside cores which will both be of similar poles, whereas the inside core will be a dissimilar pole. So logic suggests that we would need the center core to be slightly more elevated than the outside cores, but there will be losses anyway because of the long piece of laminations that are running all the way around here. But because we have two lots of laminations, it should equalize out. Anyway, that's just a video update on situations, and I still have piles and piles of stuff from my mum's, which I have to sort out. And so, yeah, the grieving is not over yet. It's far from it. Thank you for watching.